Church leadership and the missions committee is excited, but I do genuinely believe that the Lord is excited too. With so many people that have come out to say we want to be a part of sending our missionaries well, I think that excites the Lord because He's a sending God. And we'll share a little bit about that. But before we do, I want to just open in prayer. Tyler, would you mind just committing our time to the Lord?
Lord, and there's just so much that goes into all of this, and wanting to see people everywhere know about you and to make your name known and famous. And Lord, we're just thankful that we have an opportunity to be a part of it. We ask that tonight you would show us how we can do that better and how we can do it together better. Just pray for wisdom for everyone sharing and that put this on. We thank you for it. We ask that your Spirit would do the work in each of our hearts to show us just how we can humbly serve each other and send each other really well. Whatever that looks like, Lord, you know better than we do. We pray in your name. Amen.
I don't know how many of you were here on Sunday and heard Tyler share, and he mentioned something in passing. And to kind of paraphrase it, he said, you know, if Jesus hadn't been sent and died for him and his sins, there would be no point to go to Indonesia and go through the difficulties that he and Allegra go through. You know, there would be no point. They'd be wasting their time. But the fact that Jesus did come, did die for their sins, is resurrected, it's worth it. It's worth their time. And I want to start kind of on that note with kind of asking the question, does the Bible have anything to say about what we are attempting to do tonight? Does God have anything to say about what we are attempting to do this evening? Because if the Bible has nothing to say about sending or sending well, then we're wasting our time. But if the Bible has something to say, then we better examine it, even if briefly this evening. And if the Bible has something to say about it and we don't examine it, then still yet we're wasting our time. We're doing something somewhat according to human ideas and human effort. But thankfully the Lord does have something to say about it through His Word, and we are not wasting our time. We're doing something very, very important. And to just open, I think we need to remember that missions is God's idea. And so our ideas of missions should come from God and come from His Word and come from what He said. And I hope that we all believe, we could go through example after example, but I hope that we all believe and know that God is a sending God. He sent Moses into Egypt to rescue the Israelites. He sent Isaiah, He sent Ezekiel. We could just go down the list, but He sent Jesus Christ, His one and only Son, into the world to save us. God is fundamentally a sending God. And so if we want to think about how to send and how to send well, we should look at what God has to say about sending, right? Because He is a sending God. I made this point a couple of years ago during our missions conference, and I'll just mention it briefly here, but have you ever thought about this, that God, as a trinity of three persons, was or is a sending team? That God the Father sent His Son, and His Son was empowered by the Holy Spirit. That God fundamentally is a sending team. Not only is He a sending God, but because He exists as three in one, He's a sending team. That's a huge truth. And we echo a little bit of that today as we try to send as God sends, and we try to send as a team. And so our argument simply is our ideas of sending well and our ideas of being a sending team should come from God and from God's Word, because He is a sending God. And I want to take a few minutes this evening to kind of focus our attention on God's Word and why we send before we get into some of the nitty-gritty or the details of how to send well. And hopefully you can relate to this from a church who sends well. I found over the years that when someone has truly understood or seen what God is doing in the world and that God invites us to join him in that, and they've understood that there are eternal rewards for partnering with God in that. They almost invent ways to be creative and engaged and passionate with sending. If they've seen the vision of what God is doing and that God has invited us to join him and that there are rewards for sacrificing to join him in that, they can't help but be involved and find creative ways. And so I want to take a moment to kind of focus our vision on God's word and the fact that God is a sending God. And maybe if we focus on that bigger picture, we won't have to get into the nitty-gritty of a few creative ideas of how to send, because we'll be motivated to send well. So hopefully that's making sense for us all today. But we'll just take a few minutes to introduce our time by focusing on Romans 10. If you have your phone, there you go, Greg, you got his phone. We don't carry Bibles anymore, we carry our phones, but thankfully we've got many versions of the Bible on our phone. If you have a Bible, if you have your phone, if you turn with me to Romans 10, 13 and 14, and we get a clear idea of sending here. And I just want to make 3 quick points for our time. Paul writes in Romans 10, 13 and 14, everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. An amazing truth, an amazing promise. But Paul begins to explain the difficulties there are for people to call on the name of the Lord. How can they then call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? Think of that last word in that argument. Paul's making an argument. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved, but they can't call on the name of the Lord unless they've believed, and they can't believe unless they've heard, and they can't hear unless someone preaches, and that person can't preach unless they are sent. It hinges on sending. And in this passage, Paul lays out kind of the links in a chain. Think of a chain. He lays out the links of a chain kind of in the chronological order of events in world missions. This massive thing called world missions. And Paul lays out the sequence in reverse order. Well, the end goal is that they call on the Lord and they're saved, and he backs it up in reverse order. If we were to flip the order in chronological order as it works out in real time, what Paul is saying is there needs to be someone who is sending. There needs to be someone who is going and preaching. Going isn't mentioned, but it's inferred that if someone is sent, they have to go. So someone must be sent, someone must go, someone must preach if someone is to hear and believe and call and be saved. And so he lays out the order by which world missions occurs. He lays out the links in the chain as far as the process for reaching the lost peoples of the world. And so based on those verses, I just want to make 3 points as to why we send and why what we're doing tonight is important and why our sending teams are important. The first thing, if we're looking at those links in the chain, the result of salvation in the lives of lost peoples rests on sending. That is a very important point. The end goal is the salvation of lost peoples. And it hinges upon or rests upon sending. And what Paul is saying in this order is that you could argue that the first and foremost act in the chain or the links of success in world missions is sending. That's the first act. Sending someone out to preach. Another way to say it would be, Paul is saying salvation of the lost peoples is the goal, and sending is the means. Reaching them way out there in the uttermost is the goal. And the way that goal is reached, the means is sending. That's the first move towards those lost groups. And his argument, simply put, by the way that he puts it with the questions, how can they hear unless someone preaches? And the argument would be, if there's no sending, there'll be no going. If there's no going, there'll be no preaching. If there's no preaching, there'll be no hearing. If there's no hearing, there'll be no believing. And then there'll be no calling on the Lord, and there'll be no saving. And the linchpin or the catalyst is that beginning movement of sending. And that's why we're here. We want to send, and we want to send well. And so the first argument of why we send is the result of world missions, the salvation of lost souls among lost peoples. It hinges on or rests on sending. And we've gathered here tonight to say we want to send, and we want to send well. That is huge. That's a huge reason for sending. The second reason why we send, this is very important, as Paul lays out the links in that argument in Romans 10. If we are not involved in sending, going, and preaching, we're not included in the chain of success in world missions. Paul is laying out the formula. There's a linkage here. Someone has to be sent, someone has to go, someone has to preach, someone has to hear, and then they have to believe, and then they have to call. If that process doesn't happen, then missions doesn't happen. Salvation doesn't happen. And so if we're not involved in the sending or the going or the preaching in those stages, then we're not involved in the process of world missions. That's the process that's been laid out. Maybe to make the argument clearer, in this passage there are 6 activities. 3 activities can be done by church members. They can send, they can go, and they can preach. 3 activities are done by the lost peoples. They have to hear, they have to believe, and they have to call. So 3 of the activities are our responsibility. We have to send, we have to go, and we have to preach. Then it's on them to hear it and to believe and to call on the Lord. And so Paul's kind of inviting us to be part of this link or this chain that's reaching out into the nations. And the argument can be made from Paul that these 6 elements must exist if the final event will occur. Someone has to be sent, someone has to go, someone has to preach, they have to hear, they have to believe, and they have to call. And if all that happens, they'll be saved. But if one of those links is missing, if they don't hear, if no one's sent, then the final event can't happen. The salvation of lost souls can't happen. And so if we're not involved in the 3 activities which the members of the church can be involved in, then we're not included in the chain of success in world missions. We have to be sending, going, or preaching. That's the linkage to get the truth to the lost. And here's the final point, maybe the most important point for us. Because what we're doing tonight, I think, really, really matters. And I think when we realize it matters, we're self-motivated to come up with ways to be involved in sending well. If we're not involved in the chain of those successful links in world missions, we'll not be included in the eternal rewards of world missions. There's a linkage or a process that God's laid out for reaching the lost people groups. And the members of the church can either send, they can go, they can preach when they are there. That's the process. And if you're not involved in that process, then you're not involved in the end result. And if you're not involved in the end result, then we're not involved or included in the eternal rewards of world mission. And I believe that we could look at many, many passages that express a great reward for those who sacrifice and send and go for this cause. And we're not going to want to miss out on it. But the one passage I want to turn to, if you want to turn to it too, is in Matthew 19. In Matthew 19, 29 and 30, Jesus is trying to admonish his disciples to be willing to take the gospel to the ends of the earth, even if it means their very lives. And most of them gave their lives in that process. We heard about that during the book of Acts. What they were willing to risk. And Jesus is trying to motivate them in Matthew 19. And verse 29, he says, everyone who has left. It's an important word. Everyone who has left, and they've left houses or comfort, They've left brothers and sisters or father or mother or wife or children. Does that not echo Tyler's words on Sunday when he got choked up talking about the difficulty of leaving brother, sister, father, and mother? Saying goodbye and taking grandchildren far away. Jesus says everyone who is left in that way that Tyler's left and many others have left, and they've done that for my sake or the gospel's sake, they'll receive 100 times as much and will inherit eternal life. But many who are first will be last, and many who are last will be first. And thinking of the words of Tyler on Sunday, he would probably be considered last in society. Doesn't have a big house, doesn't have a nice car, doesn't have the wealth, the security that the world says is valuable. He's left those things for Christ and his name's sake and the gospel's sake. And Jesus says those who have done that will receive a great, great reward. And I think that if his goal in saying that had been Paul's goal to lay out the argument for going and for sending, Jesus would say the same kind of chronology in the links of the chain that Paul would have said. In order for someone to believe, the gospel must go out. The gospel message must go out. And if the gospel message is going to go out, someone must leave to go tell them. And they must leave houses and mothers and brothers to go tell them. And if someone's going to leave, someone must send them out. I think that argument is inferred from Paul's argument in the flow of evangelism and world missions. And so Jesus promises that there are staggering rewards beyond what any mind can imagine or conceive for leaving and for sending, so that those who leave can leave well. And I think it's inferred there that not only those who leave, but those who send or enable those to leave will also receive the same kind of reward. We could cite several other passages. I think we could cite the parable of the talents. One's given so much, the other's given another amount, and they each invested accordingly. And I think we could use the example there that there are future eternal rewards for all of eternity given by God that are in direct relationship to the amount of risk that we are willing to take on and are in direct proportion to the level of investment we make now for his name's sake and the gospel's sake here on earth. And in that day, when we are with him forever, we're going to wish that we had gone harder, stronger, and sent better or more efficiently. So I just want to close by making the point just here simply that for those who are not going and preaching, we laid out the argument, there's sending, there are those who have to be sent, and they're sent to preach. So for those who are not Tyler, for those who are not Jamie, or the others in the room who are sent to preach, so there's those who are going and preaching, the result for us is if we're not going or preaching, sending is the primary way of being involved in the success of world missions. It's our primary way, those who remain, it's our primary way of being included in the links of the chain of the success of world missions, and it's our way of being included in the great, unfathomable rewards that are out there for those who go sacrificially. And so the punchline for us tonight is, let us send urgently. Let us send passionately. Let us send intentionally, purposefully. And I think if we buy into that, then me, Don, a couple other people who have found efficient ways to send won't need to give cute little ways to send well. Well, Don said we could do this. Ben gave this little idea. I feel like when we bought into this, we won't but help find ways to send well. Because we sense the grand purpose of what God's doing, and we sense the grand reward that's out there, and we will find ways to send well. Now, we want to talk about some of those creative things and things that other teams have done well. We want to share those ideas. but I think we need a heart that's bought into what God is doing and what He's tasked us with, and the great privilege and the great reward there is therein. And so let me just close with reading Hebrews 12, 1 and 3. And think of this along the lines of sending urgently, sending passionately, sending intentionally. Because we've seen what God is doing in the world, what He's asked us to do with sending, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, who was sent. And He was sent well. And listen to this. In Him being sent, for the joy set before Him, for the reward set before Him of those who would believe, He endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. If we had more time, it would be neat to see how I believe that Jesus bought into some of these same motivations. That God is a sending God. God is part of a sending team, and there is great reward in sending and being sent. And so it's worth the sacrifice. So hopefully that's given us some motivation. Dawn's going to come and give us some practical ideas. She's going to go through maybe some of the hiccups or hang-ups that we've had over the years, things that have come up that have helped us realize how we can send better, how can teams function better. But I hope in all that we keep in mind that this is very important. It is very near to the heart of God. And I genuinely believe He's excited that there's this many people here interested in sending and sending well. He cares about that because He's a sending God who sent well.
That was awesome. Thanks, Ben. I asked some of you guys, some missionaries. Actually, I think it's pretty cool. We've never had missionaries here when we're doing a training thing, right? So I think that's pretty cool that a lot of the missionaries have been able to come. I thought it would be really helpful if they gave us some ideas or told us some of the things that really meant the most to them from their sending team. Just a couple things. Don't need a big history. I want you to come up here because we're videoing this. I think we are. We are. And so I thought the people that are watching it, it'll be good for them to see you. So if you're a missionary and you have something that you want to share, come quickly. Come on. Tyler, you can come. Tammy or Jamie, you can come. If you're my family, I'm sorry. Heather's coming. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we have a list. Yeah, it's just too long to really get through tonight, so I'll just start with a couple. One of the biggest ones was a baby shower for Allegra before Mariah was born.
I don't need any of them. A baby shower for me.
None for Dawn. She doesn't want a baby shower, but others might. Katie and Liam don't need one of those soon, probably. Right? That was too far. Another one was, I think the biggest thing, and maybe everybody would kind of say this that has gone and come back, is the setting up of our houses and then the cleaning of them when we leave. You wouldn't believe it. Well, if you've moved, you know what it's like. When you have to pack and clean at the same time and say goodbyes and do all of that at one time, it's a nightmare. So if you can just leave the cleaning for someone else, it's like it takes a huge level of stress off. So I could share more, but
Come. This is it for real? Come on.
One of the things we've really appreciated is our sending team has gotten to know us personally. And so each year they've tailored what they do for us based on what our needs have been. Being stateside, we don't get the opportunity to connect with you all more than just once a year, and that doesn't give us a lot of opportunity to get to know people. So for us, that was really important that they knew us and could speak on our behalf while we're not here. This past year, they blessed us with an opportunity to get some time away. That was what we really needed, and so we were really encouraged to have that opportunity just to go a little distance from our home and be able to just spend a weekend and get refreshed. So that was something special. They also have visited us because we are close enough to travel to. And that makes a world of difference to have them come into our lives and into our world and see things that we're talking about firsthand.
Me too.
Okay. Just have to hurry. Yeah, I think what Tyler said is that, when you said that, I was like, yes, that was a huge one. Well, 2 of our houses, I think, needed a lot of work, and they, like, redoing a lot of stuff. And they were a huge part of that. And then obviously the food and stuff, when you come home, you don't have to go to the grocery store and get overwhelmed. It's just like sitting there, you can already eat some meals. The other thing I was thinking is, like, when we see them at church and outside of church, it's the little things too. It's just the coming up to us, giving us hugs, how was your week? It's that, like, just the everyday kind of connection kind of stuff. I think that also means a lot to us.
I think the thing that meant the most to me personally over the years is sometimes you have some need come up, some big thing happens, you're always struggling, should I tell somebody about that? And sometimes you don't want to. And then your sending team says, hey, you got anything going on? You have any need come up in your life? And it just gives you that natural ability to share it, and then it gets to the missions committee, and it gets to the church, and that has happened so many times to us, I can't count it. And that has meant the most, I think, to me.
Steve, you got anything going on in
I'll say that a couple years ago, I sent out a thing to the missionaries and I asked them this question. Tell me some stuff that the sending teams have done for you. And a few of them I remember was exactly what Tim said. Somebody said, for us, you are our sending teams, and we are here, and you see us all the time, and we're just like regular people. We're not going out somewhere anymore. I felt the same way when they said this. That whole thing of they just come up and give you a hug and say, oh, how you doing? You know, it's not like they're saying, what can we pray for you about? They could say that and that'd be fine, but it's just that, just being normal. On my team, they always say, this is so dumb you say this, but every Sunday, Bob Reinhardt, that's our team right there. Give them a hand. They're awesome. No, there's more people on our team, but Bob, we went over their house. Every time I go over their house, I would look at his paper because I don't know why I love looking at the classifieds. It's stupid, but I do. And they realize that, and every Sunday, if they're here, there's a newspaper on my seat of my car, which I look at on the way home and look at everything. So it might seem silly, but it really isn't. It's a pretty cool thing. One of the other things that one of the missionaries sent was, and this is kind of a little downer thing, they were like, we loved it when people invited us to their house, you know, when we got together, but sometimes we didn't know some of the people, we didn't know they were on our team. I know, oh my is right. I was like, oh wow, that has to be, something needs to be done about that, but that I think is things that we just need to think about. But there's all kinds of things, and you can find out for yourself, for your own people. It's all different for everybody. You'll notice in your booklet that there's a whole bunch of stuff on really just a bunch of ideas on prayer and the functioning of the team, the logistics and finance. I just want you guys to read over them as a team, re-entry and travel. Some of these guys talked about that. And that's kind of like the base logistics for a sending team. I think everybody kind of knows that. By the way, we have some new people on the sending teams. New people that through COVID are coming to our church or here, and we haven't redone sending teams. And during the whole COVID thing, there was like 5 new people put on teams, that has never happened. Because normally I'm going around chasing people, you know. I think you would be good on the team, you know. You have no idea what I do to find people. I go on Alexio, I go through the whole list. Any list I find anywhere, I go on the CBC page, and who's who's a friend of the CBC missions page? Well, then I'm gonna check you out, make sure you're on a team. So that's how I sometimes do that. But, anyway, the formation of teams is part of the job that I do, and I've been doing it since the very beginning, and it's not an easy job. But this year has been a wonderful job to have. It's been really exciting, it's been encouraging. I did not have to run anybody down. It was a miracle. In fact, Pat Woodcock ran me down. I was down the hall and she goes, hey, I want to know if we can be on Tammy and Jamie's team. I was like, I was stunned. I was literally stunned that somebody was running to me doing that, because usually they see me coming, it's like, here she goes. So that's been really encouraging, and even having this many people. I mean, the first time we had this, we had 85 people who attended. Well, we have like 70 still, and there's still people that couldn't make it tonight. So that is a wonderful, wonderful history and accomplishment, I think. Some of the teams that have been formed in the beginning, they were already connected to a missionary, and so that's the team they went on. And as those teams, they were like historically, those people were on that team. But as you all know, things happen, do they not? People leave, COVID happens, people move away, and circumstances change for people, and they have to get off of a team. And that's one of my jobs, to help people decide that, and that's not easy either. I so appreciate, there was like 4 people who said, I think it's time, they gave me a reason, and I was really thankful for that, because that does nothing but help the team. Because instead of feeling bad because, the person isn't showing up and nobody knows what to do and everybody's embarrassed, they proactively let us know. And that has been another thing. It sounds negative, but for me it was a positive, it really was. That these people said, hey, I think it's time for us to get off. We may get on again, and I think that's awesome. But actually, I've actually never spoken to you as in the training. I was always watching the kids. And so Lane did it the first couple times, and then Ben did it. But on my heart, through this thinking of redoing and revamping and just reconnecting again, ascending teams, I couldn't get off my mind the idea of teamwork and working together. We've always been, I feel like, very good at giving you ideas and kind of helping you along what to do for the missionary, but we've never really talked about you as a team and working together as a team, right? And that has a lot to do with how the team functions and how effective they are for the missionary. So I started reading up on this, and I read this one paragraph, and I'm going to read it to you. I thought it was just so interesting. It convicted me as well. So teamwork, it's right in your thing. Your pastoral team, your volunteer team, your special project team, and I added your sending team. No matter what you do, you're probably involved in a team, right? Whether you want to or not. There's the clincher right there. You may be a lone wolf, I call it a lone ranger, or you may even be the leader of the team. Or you may be the lone ranger who doesn't support working on teams. I'm going to talk about that later because I'm one of them. One of those lone ranger kind of people. Did you know that the Bible has quite a bit to say about teamwork? And it really does. This is something that God set out, that this is his mandate for how we should work together. It's supposed to be like that in your home. It's supposed to be like that for the guys who serve as our leaders here. They're working together as a team. Us on praise and worship teams, we feel the same thing. We're all different personalities. Everybody's got their own ideas, and as annoying that is sometimes, I think God did that. He made us all different and made us all so that we can do different things, we think different things, and the beauty of it is when we can really work together as a team. I thought more and more about, it is awesome that sending teams do such awesome things for missionaries. I feel like it may be even a little more God-honoring when the team works together and they're in unity with each other and really are working on it. And then it's kind of like, then doing the stuff for the missionary, like it was like Ben was saying, it's kind of a no-brainer. It just comes that way. You know the verses in 1 Corinthians, and it talks about, you know, if you're an eye, do the eye thing. If you're a foot, do the foot thing. We have a whole, what do we call it, at Wyoming. Steve teaches, and he does an absolutely wonderful thing. He should teach it here sometime. The whole thing on teamwork and how we as missionaries, we cannot function if we are not on a team. We can't live if people aren't part of our team. We couldn't eat if somebody wasn't buying our food and sending it in. And so I feel like missionaries do have an idea of really how hard it is and how annoying it is sometimes to have to work on a team with sometimes people that you didn't pick. Maybe I picked them for you. But think about it, I picked my husband, and that's still hard. You know? I mean, let's face it, it's just hard, right? It's hard, we're all different. We are just all different. But I feel like, in our case here, forget about what we're doing for the missionaries. Think about how we do that as a team, work together as a team. I think it's absolutely necessary, and I've seen it more and more because I'm the one that has to work with teams that, blow up, and somebody leaves or somebody's not functioning and all that sort of thing. And so I really felt like, man, we've never really talked about that. We've never really helped people, you know, figure out how to do that. And so we're going to talk a little about that. I was talking about the idea that working together as a team is hard work. And there's no joke about this. That's going to be harder than doing the stuff that you do for your missionary. By far. It's way easier to go buy stuff and get fun stuff together for your mission. That's way easier to do than work together as a team. And Wendy and I had a little out today a little bit. We're working together as a team. For you guys, we're making the chili. I wanted to do my recipe. She didn't want to do my recipe. I was a little offended. She goes, Mom, don't act like Bentley. Just don't have a fit. But it's true, isn't it? We're all like that. That's the hard stuff. This hard stuff is deferring, Wendy, to your mother. No, really, deferring to others when you kind of just want your way, and it sometimes, most of the time, really, does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. It's just how you think it should be done. But it really is, it will be harder than working and doing the stuff that you do for your mission. It'll be harder than trying to figure out a date to meet with your team. But I do really feel, I just been thinking so much about this. We find this wherever we go. We're on a team at Wyoming. You might think we're all family, so we're hugging each other all the time. We all work at it too, do we not? We have to work at it just like everybody else does. And sometimes it comes easy, and sometimes it's just flowing just great, and sometimes you think it is, but then kapow, no it's not. So working together too, like I said, I just keep feeling that I don't want to say it's more God honoring or glorifying than serving the missionary, but I really feel like because this is a biblical principle about how we should work together, I really feel like it really does honor the Father when we work together. And by the way, your missionaries will understand this explicitly. They'll understand this whole thing. And they'll get the drift of it too. Even if you don't say anything, they'll get the drift of if you're working together, if you're not. They're not going to hold it against you because they have a problem with it too. So, and I wanted to talk about this Lone Ranger thing because that's the thing that hit me in the face. Working together means you can't be a Lone Ranger. You know what I mean by that? If nobody else is doing it, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Wendy's like that. I'm like that. We were talking about that today. Don't be offended. We were talking about that today. We are. We love working on a team. Working on a team is almost the most fun I ever have. Like, Night in Bethlehem, doing that, we're all working together, that was so fun. But on the other end, this is me. If I see something that needs to be done and I'm thinking we're supposed to be doing it and nobody's doing it, I'm like, get out of my way. I'm doing it, okay? That's not a good thing. I'm saying that's not a good thing. And like I said in here, even the Lone Ranger had Tonto, come on. He had somebody with him, helping him. So the Lone Ranger thing is an issue. And it's very easy to do in a sending team. I have seen it, and tell you the truth, I don't know what to do about it when I see it, you know? But I'm thinking that maybe if we just share these things and open that, then people feel freer, right? To understand this, maybe you're like that, or maybe somebody else is like that. Just adjust to each other so that we can really do a better job of what we should be doing. So then I decided I've been talking to different people, I've done this for years, and listened to different things, and I hear different things, and some things I hear over and over again. And the thing we're gonna get into logistics kind of the teams, because it's tough. I just read in something, Ben, that you and I are supposed to tell everybody who the leader is in their team. I actually took it out because I didn't really want to do that, but I guess maybe that's our job. That if there's not a leader on the team, that's what we're supposed to do, we're supposed to help them. But some of you are saying, what happens if I'm on a team? You don't have to raise your hand. Please don't. What if I do if the team leader, who is the leader, isn't leading? What do you think you should do? Come on, what?
Come to you.
No! I'm the last resort. What do you do if what? Dean? Come alongside and encourage them? Maybe you think they're not leading.
So I'm just saying, maybe it's perspective.
Maybe it's
that they're not leading the way you want them to.
Exactly.
You need to check yourself too.
Exactly. Anybody else?
Communication.
Huh?
Communication.
Thank you, that's good. Amber?
I was gonna say praying for them.
That is awesome. That's probably what we should be doing, right? First. I feel like if you feel like the leader is not leading, this is my 2 cents worth. I feel like, because here's what happens. We usually have 2 kinds of people, right? In general, people who want to lead, people who want to help. You think that's pretty right? People who lead, people who want to help. They really want to help. They're like, I don't have any ideas, but I want to be a part of it. And sometimes the leaders, yes, sometimes there's issues. There are, and you might not know about them. And maybe it's their new job or something like that. Or maybe they're having marital problems you don't know about, okay? There could be that. But you have this person over here that feels like, well, they're the leader. They should be ramping this baby up. You know, we haven't been meeting. That's some of the issues, and I totally get all that. We haven't been meeting. This is what I feel like. These people over here, we're a team. Whoops, we're a team, right? We're a team together. These people over here should say, hey, I think we should meet. Not just the leader has to hold the meeting, has to do all that. I feel like we should, kind of maybe cross over some of those things. And another thing I wanted to say about being in a team is that sometimes working on a team and doing the things that you don't normally like to do or think you can't do, you end up finding out, I can do this. I do like to do this. And I think that our American, can somebody help me swear for him? Our American culture is that we just we'll be like, Mark wants help in the nursery. I don't like kids, I'm not doing that. I hate being in there, Don't think that, don't tell them I said that. But how some people say that, I don't want to be around kids. Well, I feel like You have no idea. You've never even tried this baby out. Let's just try it out and just see. You might still hate kids by the end, maybe worse, but you might like it. You know, you might really like it. So I think that whole thing is growing, that sort of thing. So my answer to what do we do if the leader isn't leading, all those things that you suggested, if it gets to the point where it's like, it's non-existent, we're not doing anything and nobody really knows what's going on, then come talk to us and we'll try and, let's get together on this, make this thing work. Another question that has come up, and this has happened recently, what if a team member has moved or left the church? Should they stay on the team? Okay, I got a couple of people asking me that. And so, basically, I feel like our protocol on that is if they leave or if they move, they're off the team. I think that's pretty, right? Is that a good, I think that's a good thing, right? I mean, I feel like that's what, not in a mean way.
Maybe they feel bad about it. Maybe they don't want to tell you they can't be on the team.
Well, yeah, you mean in general?
Yeah, in general.
But yes, in general, even a team member, if they feel that way, I love that. But I mean, we're talking about specifically if they move.
Right. But maybe they can't tell you. They don't want to tell you.
No, but some of them do want to still be on the team, that's my point. They do still want to, and I just don't feel like it's a healthy thing. I feel like it works better. We're all there, we're here. It's hard enough for us to get together, we live here. You know, and we're encouraging them, you can still be part of their life. Do it on a personal level, but I think some of these things, it's helping to let everybody know how this is, that if they leave or they have moved, we don't feel bad about it, we're not mad about it, it's just that's how we're gonna do it. It's just too hard to manage the teams any other way. And here's another one, what do we do if we can't meet together all the time? That's all the time, right? That's all the time. Just trying to find a night to just as a family be together is almost impossible. So this is gonna be never ending. This is always gonna be there. You're always gonna have somebody on your team that goes, I can't make it. And sometimes it can change. You can change that around. But I really feel like as far as the team goes and the team working together, everybody has to realize, okay, if 3 of these people can get together and 1 can't, we're getting together. And there needs to be given from that person that can't, because this happens too, oh, I really wanted to come, and we appreciate that, but logistically, you can't keep postponing things. You know how it is, you can't, it's just crazy. So, if you are the one that can't be there, or you are the one who is trying to ramp up the meetings or whatever, either way, each one has to give each one of the other person, they give them some slack, and don't feel like, oh, they don't want me there. Because I know that feeling has come too. And if you haven't felt that way, you probably will. I'm just saying. I have heard this too, and it's very, very common. I feel like I'm out of the loop. And I feel like I'm out of the loop. And some of that, there's all these multiple reasons why that, right? If you're not meeting, we have it like it's supposed to be monthly. That's a lot. A monthly thing is a lot. We have community group monthly. And that's a lot. It's a lot. But that's the goal that you're gonna do. And so if you aren't meeting, of course it's gonna be, you're gonna feel out of the loop. And if one person is closer to the missionary than you are or whatever, and that happens too, doesn't it? I mean, it's just how it is. I think there's a common thing that we can do there. What Brenda said was so true about communication. I think it's true in marriage. It's true in working in anything that you work at. It's true at work. Communicating together, it makes a difference. Some of you, we talked about this before, I think some of you do have this going on, that you have a group app that you're using, either Messenger or WhatsApp or, what's the other one? GroupMe. We use GroupMe at camp. And that group, when you hear that specific ding, right? And some of you probably do. That's a sending team email, okay? That is one of the ways, and that would be probably, that doesn't have to be the leader, that might be somebody who's like, you know, tech savvy, who can do that, get everybody on. And so I think that would help a lot. There are some teams that don't have that, and so that's gonna be an issue if you aren't communicating. And one of the final things that I wanted to talk about was, how do we make team decisions? I'm curious how you guys make team decisions in your team. Can you just tell me how some of you do it? You talk about it. Everybody talks about it? What if the people aren't, what if everybody's not there?
That's the way it goes.
Yeah, well, that's why meeting together helps so much. Anybody else have anything? I mean, anybody, don't raise your hand, but I'm sure some of you have problems with that. The whole idea that, the decision, you weren't there, maybe, and a decision got made, it goes really back to that communication thing. And so, the thing that stuck in my mind is that, some things it really doesn't matter, you know, decision-wise. I mean, I think, but that's just my opinion, but I think one of the things that does matter is when it has to do with money, okay? Has to do with money. You decide to do something, you know, whatever it might be for your missionary, and you know, maybe haven't met or whatever, but I know the flurry, I know it, when it gets close to Christmas and it's like, oh, I have to do something, you know, or they're coming home, oh, we have to do something. And so I get that you're in a tiz, you know, the time has gotten away, we have got to do something. And so, I really feel like, when it comes to money, we all make different money. Some people have more than others. That's just how it is. Some can give more, and some can't. And it depends on the timing, it depends on so many things. So I am suggesting that, especially when it has to do with financial issues, I'd want it to be this way if I was on a team. I kind of want to know. I want to give. I do want to be part of it, but there are times when you can't be, right? There are times when you don't have the money or whatever. So I think that might be helpful too. I don't know if I'm getting into the nitty gritty as much. Is it uncomfortable?
And Dawn,
It is it?
I was gonna speak on that because I
Okay.
agree that is a very big topic. And if I could encourage any of the teams, and I know it doesn't seem fair, but I agree with you, some of us can give more than others. We're very big in our group that you give what you can give.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody else has to be accepted to that.
That's right.
You can't just say, well, I gave 300 and they only give 50, so what?
Yeah.
You're not giving it you're giving it to the Lord. And you gotta remember that, you know? And I think that's a big thing. Money's a big thing.
It is.
And let people give what they can give, because most of them are giving what they can. You know, so please remember that.
Yeah, that is good, Troy. I mean, I feel like, isn't it, that's that whole thing of deferring to others. And, you know, I mean, there are times when you just don't have anything to give. And that's just how it is. You just don't have it to give. And that is okay. And trust me on this one, missionaries don't care how much you give them. And that's the truth. We don't. That you care about them? Yes. See, I thought I would get through this without crying. I'm not gonna cry.
Just to interject something,
Thank you,
because what
Ben.
we were talking about earlier, combining what Troy's saying. I think what Dawn's saying is more specific than like monthly giving.
Yes.
But like the sending team wants to do something for
Yes.
the missionary.
Exactly.
And someone commits to doing something, but yet the whole group can't take an equal share. So if one gives 300, one gives 500, but the need is 700, someone's gotta give the difference. So being cognizant of what you take on as a team, making sure that the whole team has agreed to that and is able to be transparent with, we wanna be involved, but we can only do this much. someone's gotta pick up the slack, or you gotta commit less to whatever that thing is. Not so much private monthly giving, but like if you've committed to taking care of something.
Yeah, exactly, because I know a lot of you do give monthly to your missionaries, which is amazing, it really is amazing. So I'm hoping that bringing all these things up, will just open it up for everybody, that you can be honest with each other, and I'm hoping that you will. I think it will work better, that whole teamwork thing, just being honest and just saying, man, I wish I would have known, but the communication thing is the big thing, isn't it? I mean, if it's communicated to begin with, then there's no issue, right? If it's communicated and we all say, yay, then, you know, if it's like, oh, I'm not sure. And I feel like that's how we basically work. I really do feel like that. I feel like that's how it works, but I'm just thinking of different things that have come up in my own mind that I feel like might be a problem. Anybody have anything about the logistics of that kind of thing that you have a question about, or that you think might be helpful about the team, about working on your team? I mean, I know sometimes I don't mean anything. Everybody's doing fantastic.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, like in our team, for Brad and Mary, a big project coming up, how would we help them raise money? Like, what in the past have people done to help raise money for things like that? Because it's gonna be a big one.
Yeah.
We did a yard sale, or like people from the church brought things and we did a big yard sale. We did that for the Minions a couple years ago before they left.
Some of those big things, though,
That was a lot.
yes, it was. Some of those big things, your team's not responsible for that. I mean, really, we are basically, you are the liaison for your team to the missions committee, okay? So when these big things come up, yeah, we want you to be a part of them, but you're not responsible for that.
No, I don't realize we're not responsible, but like I'm asking, like, what things could we do to help them?
Right, and that is a loaded question. Does everybody feel like that's kind of a loaded? I feel like it kind of, I don't really know what. Anybody?
Well, and then
Yes?
you also have to keep in mind there's other supporting churches.
Yes,
So it's not
yes.
just our church that's
Right.
helping them out too, so.
Yes, that is very important, that we're not like responsible for the whole big thing. That's a good point, Shelley. So we don't have to feel like we're like, you know, the responsible ones to do all that. But what you're saying is exactly right, and I think you should
But this is a good question for everybody to
Yes.
hear. So in this situation, I would recommend first informing myself and the missions committee that there is a need, what the need is, and then we'll ask certain questions. When do we need this by? How much is it? How many other churches are involved? A lot of those financial decisions too are made corporately by not only the missions committee, the elders, the deacons. For instance, for a fund to be opened for the church to receive funds, all those entities have to sign off on it. So the missions committee has to propose it to the elders and the full board. So there's a process, and even with things like a yard sale or other ideas, the church leadership would like to be not only aware of it, but also say, okay, we're validating this, and how does that work with us as a nonprofit, as a church? So we really would beg you to filter those things through the church, allow us to weigh in and kind of decide what you can do on your own, what you can do through the church.
Yes, exactly, that, and while we're talking about that is, most of you guys, teams, should have been doing this for a while, instead of like ding-donging the hymn and the missions committee all the time, if we have concerns like that, and we're just wondering what to do with them, basically, the team leader, or whoever is supposed to talk to the missions committee, there's one person on the team that does that, on each team, one person, you decide who it is, and that person is supposed to actually go through Bill and Deb, because they're on the missions committee, and they're like the liaison, and then they can take it to them. It may be that the missions committee wants you to come in too, to talk to them. That probably happens sometimes too. So that's kind of how that works, but Yeah, there are some perimeters on what we can do, like we don't do bake sales. You know, we don't do like spaghetti dinners and stuff like that. Just saying, we don't. Do we? Do we? I don't think we do we? Okay, anybody have anything else? That was a good question. I'm glad you asked that.
We don't know, because we've never been on a
I know,
site,
but
so we're asking.
that's why it's good that you're asking these questions. It's awesome. Anybody else have any other questions? I have a few more things I want to talk about. Okay, here I have some you know, you can use these, put your sending team information, these things, if you're looking at your booklets. I do want to go to the last page because there's a correction on there. Okay, there's my information, there's Deb and Bill's information, that they're liaison. On the missions committee members, I did not know that Mike Manifold was a new member. I'm sorry about that, I had it all printed. I literally had it printed and 1 minute later I get a text from him. Oh, by the way, Mike Manifold's on thing, oh, too late. And so Mike Manifold's on that. I do want to say something to the missionaries. Aren't you so glad you came tonight? I have something to say to you. Wendy and I were talking about this today. I'm sorry, we were talking a lot. We were talking about how we feel like missionaries have to help their sending teams. Okay? Like Steve was saying, where you are? There you are. Making it is hard for us. The older you are, the harder it is for us. We feel like the young missionaries do a much better job of telling like minions what they're doing, sending videos. Of course, it's a little more exciting than the old people, let's face it, but it's true, right? It is. I'm sending you're getting a video from me. But you see what I'm saying? I really do feel like it is really true. I think that they do a better job of letting the sending team know. I'm not saying like, oh, here's what we want. But like, hey, I just want you to know, I could have done this. You know, what we did this summer and how many people there were, just simple little things. But we are more embarrassed. The old people, old generation, and I'm one of them. Steve actually is too, an old one. But it is true. We are embarrassed to ask or to throw things out there. We just are. And it might be wrong. I don't know. It's not going to change. But I'm just saying that we just need to be a little more proactive, I think. And just like letting our people know what's going on. So we also have to communicate. Just like, I always feel like we don't even know what to write in prayer letters, if you really want to know the truth. It's like, okay, same thing we did last year. Yeah, been doing this for a while, same thing. But anyway, I threw that in because we were talking about that today. Okay. 7:30, you're welcome, everybody. I said 8 o'clock. This is a master list. There's 2 of them up there if you'd like to see who's on what team. I think it's updated. Today, one changed, yes. There was an addition today. So if you would like to see that and all that, you know, just see who's on what team, that's fine. Anything else anybody wants to say?
Dawn, can I throw out a couple things?
Yes, please.
I just want to share a couple things with you that have come up from what Dawn was sharing. We were talking today, and then I had an interaction with somebody today that brought 3 things to mind that I think are really important to maybe leave you with. First, obviously our goal with sending teams is to send our missionaries well. But over the years, I've seen these opportunities happen, and Dawn's even mentioned it. On your sending team, you might actually have an opportunity to be a blessing to and serve the person on your sending team. The goal is obviously to send a missionary well, but these groups have over the years at times functioned like small groups. And so where you see your leader struggling or not doing something, Dawn mentioned it could be a marital issue, it could be a new job, it could be they're drowning in some type of stress. And so rather than being judgmental or frustrated, it could be an opportunity to reach out and serve, disciple, help, minister to that person. You know, sometimes we can get so laser focused on the missionary, there's an opportunity to serve on the team itself. Now that's obviously, okay, it's not the primary goal, but sometimes we can miss those opportunities to reach out to the people in our own body. So be looking for that. Be looking for ways to actually help the people on the team. And so keep that in mind. With that also in mind, with Dawn saying, if you see your leader struggling with something, not doing something, she gave me the example today. She's heard a couple complaints about, oh, I'm not hearing anything about our missionaries or getting updates from our missionaries through my leader. Well, then maybe you need to be the communications coordinator. Rather than my leader's not communicating enough from my missionary, maybe say, hey, I have a heart for this. I feel like maybe the Lord's given me a heart for communications. How about I connect with the missionary once a month and I send out an update to the team? You know, without taking over or threatening the leader, you provide a solution. You see a need, maybe it's an opportunity for you to provide a solution in a kind way. You know, hey, we haven't been meeting, you know, what if we host the meetings once a month? What if we put out the schedule? You know, kind of those positive things. And the final thing I just want to say, this actually came up today, it was at the barbershop. I was talking to Chris's son, Josh, and he heard that Nick was going to be here, and Chris and Brandy were going to be here, and he says, what's this whole thing? Teams, sending teams, what are these teams you're talking about at church? And he's familiar with the process of sending missionaries, and missionaries going to the field. And so I was just explaining to him the concept of sending teams. And I said, imagine for a second that you and your wife and your young baby, or young baby's got health issues. I said, imagine you had to pack up your whole life, and you had to go overseas, 2,500, 3,000 miles away. You had to raise your money to go there, and when you get there, you need a new laptop. Wouldn't it be nice if there's somebody back home that you could communicate to? Anyway, I went through all these scenarios with him, like just imagine if it was you. And it was interesting. He was really tracking when he thought about it being him. And so, as much as possible, put yourself in the shoes of your missionary. What if I had to pack up my whole house, like Tyler's saying? What if I had to say all my goodbyes in 1 week? What if I had to pack my whole life in 9 foot lockers? What might I want someone to do for me? Well, that might be what they want you to do for them. So just constantly put yourself in the shoes of the missionary and even the shoes of your leader. If I was leading this thing, how would I want somebody to confront me or to encourage me? So just constantly put yourself in the shoes of someone else, and it might make the path clear. So look for ways to serve your team. Look for ways to put yourself in their shoes, and the decision might become very clear. How to help. Those are just a couple things that I came up with when you were talking, things we've talked about.
I think it's pretty cool too that in the beginning when we started this, I didn't know about the money thing, but like I said, I'm a missionary, so I'm not going to ask for money, but I've been so amazed at the teams that they just go ahead and do stuff for the people. They're not going to, now these big things, yes, but it's really, and it is true when you think about it, whatever you care about, you throw money at. It's true. I love crafts. Just come to my craft room. So I'm spending money on that, whatever you love and you care about, your children, whatever, you throw money at. And that has been obvious over the years. I don't even know half of it. I don't. But I hear little things, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so awesome that they did that. They wouldn't have had to. They could have gone to the missions committee. The missions committee is very good about trying to meet the needs of the missionaries. But I think there's something that does something to you, isn't it? When you feel part of it and you do something towards that. So, okay, I think we're done. I think it would be awesome if, since you are together as a team right now, if you even just took a few minutes, even maybe to pray with each other or just talk about what's going on. Some of you are on new teams who you don't even know the people. So maybe not, there's not time tonight to get in all that, but I thought you're here, why not meet, right? So whatever you would like to do, some of you might have to leave, but I just want to thank y'all for coming. It's been such an awesome encouragement. Thanks so much. Everybody hot over there? Shelley?
I don't have one.
Okay, you're free to go.